Good morning, students. And today in this class, I will be starting uh, My Reminiscences by Rabindranath Tagore. So this is paper, as you know, the autobiography paper, DAC B3 that you have in your syllabus, and there are 4 texts, as you know, and we have My Reminiscences, chapters 1 to 15. So not the full book, not the whole of it, but the first 15 chapters. So I'll be starting the text today, and I have given you the PDF version of this text. Now, before I start, since some of you are here and you already know this, but I'm just saying this once more, that your tutorial submissions, that would be on the 13th of this month, 13th. So you have to bring your tutorial projects, and uh, there will be a viva, as you know. So that would be next Thursday, that is 13th, from about 12 p.m. So uh, at present, the army jawans are there, so we cannot take classes offline. So we are continuing the online classes. Okay, let us uh, look at the text, and I'm going to share the text with you here. So, My Reminiscences by Rabindranath Tagore. So this is the text, My Reminiscences by Sir Rabindranath Tagore. So when this was published, as you know, that the British government had conferred upon Rabindranath the knighthood, and so he is referred to here as Sir. And this was published in 1917, and you are aware of the fact that Rabindranath had renounced this knighthood in 1919 because of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, so that you know. So, but now this Sar is there, this title. Now, translator's preface. Let us look at this translator's preface, and this text, that is the Bengali version, is uh, Jibon Smriti, and Jibon Smriti was translated into English by Tagore's nephew Satyendranath Tagore, and uh, this is Satyendranath Tagore, what he has written in the preface. So let us read this. These reminiscences were written and published by the author in his 50th year, shortly before he started on a trip to Europe and America for his failing health in 1912. So just before Tagore received the Nobel Prize, as you know, that Tagore got the Nobel Prize for Gitanjali in 1913, and this was just the year before. So these reminiscences were completed. Perhaps Rabindranath had started writing. It is not known for certain when he had started writing these reminiscences, but it is thought that he had started to write this book rather around 1910, and it was published when he was 50 years old. It was in the course of this trip that he wrote for the first time in the English language for publication. So when he was going to Europe and America. In these memory pictures, so lightly, even casually presented by the author, there is, nevertheless, revealed a connected history of his inner life, together with that of the varying literary forms in which his growing self found successive expression, up to the point at which both his soul and poetry attained maturity. So here, uh, Surendranath Tagore, he is saying that these are like memory pictures, and there is a kind of a casual uh, nature to this, the way these are presented. However, they would reveal a kind of a history of his mental state, inner life, with the kind of the literary types or the forms in which he was gradually expressing himself, and he was attaining maturity, both as a writer and as perhaps also he means to say spiritually. This lightness of manner and importance of matter form a combination, the translation of which into a different language is naturally a matter of considerable difficulty. So Surendranath Tagore is saying that it was a difficult task to translate this from Bengali to English. It was, in any case, a task which the present translator, not being an original writer in the English language, would hardly have ventured to undertake had there not been other considerations. So he's saying that I would not have tried my hand at translating this, but there were some other uh, things also which I took into consideration. The translator's familiarity, however, with the persons, scenes, and events herein depicted made it a temptation difficult for him to resist, as well as a responsibility which he did not care to leave to others, not possessing these advantages, and therefore more liable to miss a point or give a wrong impression. So Surendranath Tagore was actually prompted to write or rather translate this work because he says that since he belonged to the Tagore family himself and he was very close to Rabindranath, he actually wanted to present the true picture because he was familiar with the persons, the scenes, the events. So he was intimately connected with all these things, and therefore he did not want any other person who might not have been part of the Tagore household, the Tagore family, to write these, translate this. So that person uh, might not have the kind of advantages that Surendranath Tagore had. So he or she might kind of make some kind of a mistake, or might not be able to present everything clearly. The translator, moreover, had the author's permission and advice to make a free translation, a portion of which was completed and approved by the latter before he left India on his recent tour to Japan and America. So Rabindranath was able to look at a portion of this translation before he went on the tour. So as we can see here that this is a kind of preface as Surendranath Tagore is writing this. In regard to the nature of the freedom taken for the purposes of the translation, it may be mentioned that those suggestions which might not have been as clear to the foreign as to the Bengali reader have been brought out in a slightly more elaborate manner than in the original text. So Surendranath Tagore is saying that this is a free translation, not a literal word by word translation. So actually uh, there are some things which the foreign reader, this was being done, the translation was being done for the foreign readers who did not know Bengali. So of course what the translator had to keep in mind, he had to yes so uh, he had to make some elaborate arrangements, uh, and what was there in the original Bengali text, that was not sufficient, and so some additions or notes were added so that the foreign reader would understand. While again, in rare cases, others which depend on allusions entirely unfamiliar to the non-Indian reader have been omitted rather than spoil by an over-elaboration the simplicity and naturalness which is the great feature of the original. So the original work was very simple and naturally written by Rabindranath, but there are some things which would not have been, uh, some allusions, some things were there which would be unfamiliar, so they were omitted. There are no footnotes in the original. All the footnotes here given have been added by the translator in the hope that they may be of further assistance to the foreign readers. So the footnotes are there. Now this is the contents page. As you see, the translator's preface and part 1, uh, we will be reading till chapter 15, at the Himalayas. So from chapter 1 to chapter 15. Okay, so this is our, the work is quite long as you can see, but of course these are the illustrations that we find. And let us now start the text itself, part 1, My Reminiscences, and here is the first chapter. So Rabindranath begins the text, his memoirs, it may be said, in this way: I know not who paints the pictures on memory's canvas, but whoever he may be, what he is painting are pictures, by which I mean that he is not there with his brush simply to make a faithful copy of all that is happening. So he is saying, the poet here is saying that I am not aware of who gives us or who paints the pictures on our the canvas, which is sort of our memory, the memories that come back to us from our earlier times. Now the pictures are there. He is a painter who is painting pictures. Uh, Everything that is happening that has not been faithfully copied, he takes in and leaves out according to his taste. He makes many a big thing small and small thing big. So as he is saying that the painter is painting in a very, uh, you can say, at his own will. So it is not something, a kind of a painstaking job. He has no compunction in putting into the background that which was to the fore, or bringing to the front that which was behind. In short, he is painting pictures and not writing history. So this is important, as Rabindranath is saying, that uh, some things which came before, perhaps, that were pushed to the background, and others which happened later, they have been put forward. So there is no sequence that is maintained as such. The way the memory comes in, that is what he's saying. So the pictures, one after another, they are being painted by the supreme artist. It is not history as such. These are essentially some collection of pictures of his childhood, of his boyhood days. So that is what he means to say here. Thus, over life's outward aspect passes the series of events, and within is being painted a set of pictures. The two correspond but are not one. So, as one goes on living his or her life, many things happen to a person. A series of events take place, and these events, they would leave some kind of impressions on one's mind, on the inner soul, as it were. And these two cannot be made into one. These are not similar as such. The reactions or the feelings which are there. So the inner being essentially looks at these things as pictures being painted. We do not get the leisure to view thoroughly the studio within us. Portions of it now and then catch our eye, but the greater part remains out of sight in the darkness. So there is not enough time to look into our minds, our hearts, to sort of make a self-introspection. That is a thorough kind of a critical analysis, you might say. So, what is done, actually, portions of it now and then catch our eye, but the greater part remains out of sight in the darkness. So the inner, these pictures, sometimes they come to the fore, but a larger part, it remains outside our vision. Why the ever busy painter is painting when he will have done? For what gallery his pictures are destined? Who can tell? So this is a mystifying question. The ever busy painter, that is the Almighty himself. So when he will stop, and for what kind of a gallery these pictures are being painted. Some years ago, on being questioned as to the events of my past life, I had occasion to pry into this picture chamber. So Tagore says that I was asked about my earlier life when uh, I was a small boy. So he then had the opportunity to look into this picture chamber, as he calls it, the series of pictures that had been stored in his heart or in his mind, inner eye, through the inner eye. I had thought to be content with selecting some few materials for my life's story. I then discovered, as I opened the door, that life's memories are not life's history, but the original work of an unseen artist. So Tagore here is saying that yes, I was going to select some materials for my life story, but when he looked at this picture chamber, as he calls it, the life's memories cannot be looked upon as life's history, but the original work of an unseen artist, that is, unseen artist, of course, refers to God. Uh, the letter A of artist is in capital, as you can see. So God Almighty is painting everything in our inner picture chambers. The varied colors scattered about are not reflections of outside lights, but belong to the painter himself. So it is the painter who has decided what he is going to paint and come passion tinged from his heart, thereby unfitting the record on the canvas for use as evidence in a court of law. So it is the unseen artist who uses these various colors, and the colors, they are coming from the painter himself, from the passion tinged uh, heart of the painter. And these memories or these pictures uh, cannot be used in a court of law for evidence of one's life. But though the attempt to gather precise history from memory storehouse may be fruitless, there is a fascination in looking over the pictures, a fascination which cast its spell on me. So Rabindranath is saying that one should not try to, you know, kind of build up one's life history from the pictures stored in one's memories, that is. But there is a kind of a fascination, or one feels a kind of eagerness or enthusiasm to look over these pictures of one's own life. Uh, and that was something that took hold on me. The road over which we journey, the wayside shelter in which we pause, are not pictures while yet we travel. They are too necessary, too obvious. So the road that is traversed, and sometimes we try to take rest. When we are undertaking this journey, we are not aware of the pictures. When, however, before turning into the evening rest house, we look back upon the cities, fields, rivers, and hills which we have been through in life's morning, then, in the light of the passing day, are they pictures indeed? So, when one looks back in one's, when one is mature enough, and he's referring to all these memories, the pictures, as if a traveler, in a metaphorical way, like a traveler who is traveling through many cities, fields. He is crossing rivers, climbing mountains or hills. And in life's morning means in the earlier part of our lives, when we are young. So uh, a mature person would look back with fascination on the kind of life he had led during the first part of his life. And then they become a series of pictures. Thus, when my opportunity came, did I look back and was engrossed. So I was really interested in looking at these pictures when I got this opportunity, when someone was asking me about my past life. So it was a fascinating task. Was this interest aroused within me solely by a natural affection for my own past? Some personal feeling, of course, there must have been, but the pictures had also an independent artistic value of their own. So, uh, Tagore, when he was looking back, obviously he was fond of his all these pictures, rather of his memories of his earlier life, and he is saying that uh, the personal or subjective feelings were there, but these pictures, they were you can say valuable because of their independent artistic values. There is no event in my reminiscences worthy of being preserved for all time, but the quality of the subject is not the only justification for a record. What one has truly felt, if only it can be made sensible to others, is always of importance to one's fellow men. So he's saying that one's true feelings, if they are communicated in a sensible way to one's uh, fellow uh, fellow men, so it would be of importance. It would become valuable. If pictures which have taken shape in memory can be brought out in words, they are worth a place in literature. So the pictures are there as in the picture chamber. They are in a kind of a haphazard way, not they are in a kind of a sequence, as Rabindranath was saying in the earlier part of this chapter, and they have to be brought out, and a shape has to be given to them, coherent shape for other people to read uh, in black and white. Only then uh, people would understand and appreciate, and they would be recognized as part of literature. It is as literary material that I offer my memory pictures. To take them as an attempt at autobiography would be a mistake. In such a view, these reminiscences would appear useless as well as incomplete. So, though we are reading this book, or rather these uh, chapters, as part of our autobiography paper, but Rabindranath did not want this to be read as an autobiography, because he was looking at them as a kind of a series of pictures which were given a literal shape. It is a literary material. So he is in the first chapter, as we have read it, as we find it here, he is looking at his past life, the memories associated with his past life, as a picture series of pictures which came to him, which were there, and which he presented them in a way which, of course, uh, would interest the readers. They would become a part of literature, and he wants us to read them not as an autobiography, but a series of uh, pictures and memories were which had happened, which had been there in his mind. So this is the first chapter, and Rabindranath is here sort of describing his objective. or what he wants us to do with these reminiscences. Now let us move on to the second chapter, and this is the beginning of how uh, his teaching, how it began. Teaching begins, chapter 2. We three boys were being brought up together. Both my companions were 2 years older than I. When they were placed under their tutor, my teaching also began, but of what I learned, nothing remains in my memory. So he was a child when his teaching began, because there were two other boys who were with him, and they were older than him. And the three of them were being brought up. There was this common tutor, but since he was really young, he could not, he does not remember what was being taught at that time. What constantly recurs to me is, quote, the rain patters, the leaf quivers, unquote. Now, this is a jingling sentence in the Bengali child's primer. So this is a note by the translator for the foreign readers, but we know what this line means, or what this line is actually, because I'm sure that you have come across this sentence, Jol pore pata nore. So this is the English translation of that. The rain patters, the leaf quivers. And this was there in the Bengali primer of children, Bengali children who were reading the primer. I am just come to anchor after crossing the stormy region of the Kara Khala series, and I am reading The Rain Patters, the Leaf Quivers, for me, the first poem of the arch poet. So this is kind of a exercises in 2 syllables, as the note is there. And I am reading The Rain Patters, the Leaf Quivers. The arch poet is that is the poet who had sort of devised this this rhyme for the children to memorize, who would be learning the language, the young children. Whenever the joy of that day comes back to me, even now, I realize why rhyme is so needful in poetry. So this line actually it is important, because this made Tagore understand what role rhyme played in poetry. Because of it, the words come to an end, and yet end not. So the rain patters, the leaf quivers. Jol pore pata nore. So this is in a way a full sentence, but it is not yet over, as if it is not coming to an end. The utterance is over, but not its ring. So the rhyme sort of continues to reverberate in the ear. And the ear and the mind can go on and on with their game of tossing the rhyme to each other. Thus did the rain patter and the leaves quiver again and again, the livelong day, in my consciousness. So this line had quite an influence on the young Tagore. Another episode of this period of my early boyhood is held fast in my mind. So this is the first memory that Tagore shares with us. And this is the second. We had an old cashier Kailash by name, who was like one of the family. He was a great wit and would be constantly cracking jokes with everybody, old and young, recently married sons-in-law, newcomers into the family circle being his special butts. So this person, Kailash, he was a cashier in the Tagore household, and he had become one of the members of the household because he had been there for a long time, and he was a witty person, and he would be joking with everyone. And the recently married sons-in-law and people who came into the family circle, he would be cracking jokes at their expense. There was room for the suspicion that his humor had not deserted him even after death. So once my elders were engaged in an attempt to start a postal service with the other world by means of a planchette. So you know what a planchette is. Actually, this was quite uh, popular during Tagore's time, and this was a kind of a method by which the souls of dead people, it was said that uh, uh, the living could communicate with the dead by means of a planchette, and the dead people would, their souls, they would come, and in a way they would reveal, the questions would be asked and they would answer. So there would be a person who would be writing down what the uh, these dead people would be saying. So that was kind of a practice during those times. And Tagore's elder brothers or his elder relatives, they wanted to try and communicate with them. At one of the sittings, the pencil scrawled out the name of Kailash. So after this person's death, uh, apparently he returned uh, in a spiritual form. He was asked as to the sort of life one led where he was. So that was a question that was, of course, people were curious to know